So you're this is already funny.
Yes.
So hello everybody. Today I have my special guest Mary Shaw, and Mary has some interesting stories that she would like to share with us. And I have some questions for Mary. Mary was a critical care nurse, and she also has a business. Mary, tell us a little bit about your business in
Well,
case anybody's interested.
okay. Actually, my business is selling medical equipment, but my specialty is actually a scrub line. So what we have is a actual scrub line, any colors. We have stretchy material. We have breathable material and any type of pocket that you think that you might want or need. Most healthcare professionals need a lot of pockets because we have things that we need to store. So
How can
that's my
people get a
business.
hold of you?
Well, actually, we're kind of revamping our website.
Okay.
So the website is A&M International Suppliers.com. So we should have our scrub line posted, I'd say, within the next few weeks.
Okay, that's good. So we'll maybe put that in the chat after it gets revamped. So tell me, how long have you been a critical care nurse? And tell me, I don't think you're doing it right now, are you?
No.
No. Okay. How long were you a critical care
Oh
nurse?
my God. I'd say at least 3 or 4 years, and I actually did the emergency room.
Oh, so both of those
Yes.
are intense.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've seen a lot of people transition in
Yes.
your time. But you did tell me a funny story. We discussed that. Well, I don't think it was funny. I think it was more unique. You told me a unique story about a father and son.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because what Living with Loss does is we encourage people who have suffered loss. I had somebody call me while I was sitting here waiting for you. They just lost their son last month in June. No, they must have lost a son in May, and then in June 8th or 9th, they had the memorial because that was his birthday.
Oh, wow.
So she's called while I was sitting here waiting to have this interview with you to tell me, she was missing her son. And that's natural. We miss
Mm-hmm.
people who are alive. So
Right.
to know that you may never see your child again as a mother, that's hurtful.
Yeah.
That's hurtful. So I understand that. But you told me a father and son story, and I mean, you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but just give us a little bit about what happened.
Well, it's a couple of stories I'd like to tell just to
Okay.
give you an idea of what we sometimes encounter. Actually, this particular time I was actually working the ICU, and there was a 20-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old son, and the father was on drugs. And what the father was doing at that particular time is he was, I call it, jacking up the mother to get drug money. Um, I guess the daughter had had enough, so she grabbed the gun and she shot at the father. And this actually was the story that the father told me. And when she shot at him, he ducked, and his son was standing behind him.
Oh my.
And it was the cleanest bullet wound I've ever seen in my life. And the son was in the SICU, and I was taking care of the father. And
What's SICU?
oh, I'm sorry, surgical intensive care unit.
Okay.
Okay, and I had the father on the spinal cord unit. So we were just kind of watching him. There was nothing technically wrong with him. And I had him for about a week, and we would conversate, and he would tell me that if something happened to his son, he's going to die. And I kept telling him, but there's nothing really wrong with you. He said, if something happens to my son, I'm going to die. And I heard this heart wrenching scream coming from the SICU. And of course, the son had died. He was notified. And the interesting thing is, they asked me if I wanted to let the daughter come over. And I told them no. So of course my boss had to talk to me and tell me, well, that's probably not a good idea. So I decided to walk around the complex, which was the medical center. Um, After that, he was told, right after that, the man coded.
What does coded mean? I know what it means, but please
So
explain.
coded means that his heart stopped. So, I think at that point in time for me as a nurse that I realized that it takes a will to live. It really
Absolutely.
does.
Absolutely.
So again, you have to be careful that you will have what you say. So always speak life to yourself
And
and
their loved ones.
and to your loved ones. So the other story was actually a nurse that I worked with, and the nurse's son actually got killed
Mm.
in the car. And she drove around with this car with all the blood in it for over 2 years. Yeah.
Oh my God.
We were all concerned about her. Nobody really wanted to say anything, and I don't know how she did it. I'm just gonna
So
be
he
honest.
was killed in the car.
He was killed in the car.
He was shot,
He was shot. Yeah.
and she wouldn't clean the blood up,
No.
or have somebody else clean the blood.
No, ma'am.
Oh my.
No.
So that to me is not letting go.
Right.
That has a lot of mental ramifications on a person. Trauma, mental trauma.
Yeah.
Was that her only child?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I'm here. And that's why a lot of other mental health professionals are around, so that if people need someone to talk to, or if people just need someone to call and
Right.
cry, that's why we're here.
Right.
2 years is a long time.
That's a long time.
Oh my God.
That's a long time.
Oh my God. So we also discovered that when my niece was in the critical care unit, you were there.
Yes. Yes.
And we just discovered that through conversation.
Yes.
And you said you remembered her walk of
Yes.
honor. And I actually posted a walk of honor on the page the other day because I actually saw one on TikTok. But explain to me what that is.
So the walk of honor is when somebody donates their organs. So we as healthcare professionals actually honor them, because everybody can't give up their organs. It's a very spiritual, solemn thing. And I think if you don't believe in it or you don't have compassion, you shouldn't be walking. So, again, some people were just like, just come on, just walk. And I felt as though it's not something that you should do if you're not really going to honor the person. So, yeah, it's just pretty amazing.
I remember telling my niece, because they told me that a baby was going to get half of her liver. So I remember sitting there having the conversation with her, like, a baby's going to get your liver, because they couldn't use the whole liver.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are religions that don't believe in organ transplants.
Right.
So if you don't believe in it, that's totally up to you. My personal belief is that it can save someone else's life.
Correct.
So, and this was a baby she gave the liver to. Her spleen, her kidneys were given to 2 different people. And I sat there and I literally because they told me the ages of the people that were getting her organs, like the lady that got her spleen. Because I didn't know you could do a spleen transplant. Like, really? Was her age. And so I told her.
Amazing.
I know it was a spiritual kind of thing, because I knew what was on the other side of that door. I was following the bed, or is that what you call it? The cart that was taking her into surgery. I literally followed it, and the doctor turned around and said, "You can't go past here. You have to scrub up. You got to stop."
Yeah.
And at that point is when you say goodbye. Well, I think I should have said it on the other side of the door, but and then you turn around like, where are you going? But it was kind of a spiritual thing for me, because I knew she was going to transition at that point. I knew that.
Mhm.
So you talked about you train nurses.
Oh Lord, yes.
How do you train a nurse? And I think we kind of talked about this off camera. How do you train a nurse to have compassion?
In all honesty, it's not the easiest thing to do. First, I think as nurses or as a student and as an instructor, you need to weed out who's there for what reason. I mean, you may not be able to really say, well, maybe you shouldn't go into this program, but you can make them aware of how they really feel. Um, Being a nurse for 38 years, I always sit them down and tell them, hey, if you in it for the money, I've tried it, been there, done that, got a t-shirt, and guess what? They'll never pay you enough. Okay? So you have to have a heart for people. I mean, you're looking at some intricate and intimate parts of a person. They're telling you their uttermost secrets. So it's not about money. It's about love and love for people. Doesn't matter if you get beat up, but you still
What do you
have
mean
to
get beat up?
Oh, violence is a big thing now with nurses. There was a point in time that not too long ago that they were giving gift cards if people just complained to Target.
Okay, I don't. As somebody who's never worked in the medical profession, what do you mean? I mean, break that down to the lowest denominator. To somebody who has never worked in the medical profession, gift card. Okay, so for everybody who, so wait a minute, I gotta say this. I had two professions. One was in Michigan Department of Corrections, and the other one I still sell real estate. So I don't know what you mean about complaining
Yeah.
and getting a gift card. Who complains?
Well, usually it was the patient. So if they didn't like the care that they were getting, then the CEO would come up, or the president or the vice president. They take the report and say, hey, well, before you get ready to discharge, we'll give you a $50 gift card for your complaint. So, I mean, it just
You're
really.
sick. What do you have to complain about? Somebody's taking care of you, wiping your butt, bringing you food.
You would be surprised. And this is one of the reasons that I chose to sit down and talk to nursing students actually on our first day. And I would go around the table and tell them to tell me why you're here. I heard some stories too. So,
I mean, give me an example. I'm really curious.
Well, my grandma said that I would be a nurse. No, that's not good enough.
I never wanted to be a nurse.
No, I'm just telling you.
I can't handle it.
I know. Some people would tell me it was for the money. And then I had one young man that I'll never forget. He was engineer, aerodynamics, and he actually told me because his girlfriend died in the emergency room. And I looked at him and said, that's not a reason to be a nurse. So then as time even went on with him, I couldn't just get rid of him because of that. But as time went on, I couldn't get him to touch nobody. He wouldn't give nobody a bed bath.
You're a nurse.
I'm telling you what he did. So, of course, I had to let him go at some point. But his reasoning, he didn't understand. He found more camaraderie with the doctors, not with the nurses. So to me, he wasn't a servant. He wanted to be something other than. And to me, nursing is serving.
It absolutely is. And funny you said that. We had a meeting at my church last night, and my pastor talked about the same thing. People, especially men, like titles.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I mean, women do too. But he said, don't do something because of a
Correct.
title.
Correct.
That is so weird. If I get sick and I go to the doctor or the hospital, we talked about this too. You never ask the doctor, So what grade you get in chemistry 202 or whatever class you took? You don't know what your doctors or nurses' grades were.
Right.
You never asked them that.
Right.
You never. Now I did ask one time. I was in the labor and delivery room, and I asked the doctor came in and said he was an intern. I said, "You ever delivered a baby?" He said, I said, "Come on, come on, come on," because we don't know as
you
public. But you also talked about how you teach nurses, and we talked about you can't teach a person compassion,
No. No.
and especially
No.
compassion with the family. You got my child dying, my husband dying.
Right.
And that's your job. So you're whatever.
Right. So as an instructor, they always said I was a little strange, and I knew it. But the thing is that I would pray before I would assign them patients because I didn't know, but God knew what they needed to enhance them or to bring them up where they needed to be. And one particular girl stays in my mind, and I gave her a patient that was dying. She didn't know it. I did, of course, as an instructor. But she had told me after it was all over, because I kept an eye on her, because something kept saying something's about to go down. And
So you know?
well, the Holy Spirit lets me know.
Okay.
You know, and she got that lady that day, and that lady was dying. And it seemed like she was in the room a long time. So I started hovering around the door. She came out about an hour later, and that's when I saw her crying, and she told me, "How did you know?" And I said, "I really don't know." You know, and she told me that her grandma had died about a year ago prior to.
Right.
And what it was is she hadn't let go. You know, you don't ever totally let go, but as a nurse, there's pieces and parts of you to enhance the family that you have to let go of. If you're carrying the burden and you still feel some kind of way, then you can't help the family heal. And that's the way I kind of look at it.
So have you ever gotten really attached? Because I've never seen doctors cry or nurses cry. Have
Right.
you ever gotten so attached to a patient? No. That's part of your job.
Right. You have to teach people to be detached because of the fact, and I tell the students this too, the issue is that if you're standing there crying, they look at you as a form of strength. And if you're standing there
Absolutely.
crying, then how you going to help them? I
Absolutely.
need tissue too.
Like I said, I've never seen a doctor or nurse
Yeah,
cry. I saw
They do.
So I take that back, and it wasn't a doctor or nurse, but when my niece was transitioning, the EMS drivers came back to the hospital, and they were two females. They both cried.
Yeah.
I saw that. So that's the only time I saw a medical person crying. They were like, "She's like our age," and
Yeah.
and they picked her up off the street and all of that. So they cried. I saw that, but I've never ever seen another nurse, and I would never want to be in pediatrics if I had.
Oh yeah, that's not my forte at all.
I would never want to do that. So how has your profession? How has your profession affected your just say your life and interaction with people dying or family?
Actually, it kind of hasn't. When I was actually a certified nursing assistant,
Mhm.
it was my first time of having somebody that was dying. So I bossed up and I said, I'm going to sit here all night and watch this. And from that day forward, I actually was okay. So I've had a lot of family members die. A lot. Back to back to back. Young people as well. But the thing is that I'm here to support the family. I'm not here for me. I'm not here to let go of anything that I have. I should have let go of that, or at least have it to a point where it's tolerable. So it's a balance. It's a balance.
So we're gonna not keep people on here too long. I try not to keep people over 30 minutes, but this has been extremely interesting.
Yes.
How has all of this or affected you?